The official website of Guinness World Records features the most incredible record-breaking facts and achievements. In this video, we will go over the top 11 military Guinness World Records in history dating back to the 19th century. At number 1, the shortest war. The Britain-Zanzibar War was a military conflict fought between the United Kingdom and the Zanzibar Sultanate on 27 August 1896. Zanzibar was an island country in the Indian Ocean, which is now a part of Tanzania. The conflict lasted between 38 and 45 minutes, marking it as the shortest recorded war in history. The Sultan's forces sustained roughly 500 casualties, while only one British sailor was injured. At number 2, the first use of aircraft in warfare. In 1911, the Italians used powered airplanes in battle against the Turks near Tripoli. However, it wasn't until the Great War that they were used by many sides. At first, planes weren't armed and were only used for reconnaissance, basically acting as extra eyes for the leader on the ground. But soon, the need to stop the enemy from doing this led to air-to-air fighting, where both sides tried to get ahead in the air. Fixed, forward-firing machine guns were used on fighter planes, which let the pilot direct the whole plane at the enemy. Since these guns had an effective range of only about 200 yards, the first battles in the skies happened very close. At number 3, the first aircraft landing on a moving ship. Commander Edward Harris Dunning of the Royal Navy Air Service in Britain was the first person to land an airplane on a ship that was moving. On August 2, 1917, he put his Sopwith pup down on an aircraft ship. The ship was going 26 knots, which is about a few miles per hour for him to cross the deck. 5 days later, he was killed when an updraft caught his port wing and threw his plane overboard on his third try to land that day. He passed out and drowned in the cabin. At number 4, the worst airship disaster. USS Acron, which was a helium-filled rigid airship of the US Navy, the lead ship of the class, which operated between September 1939 and April 1933. It was the world's first purpose-built flying aircraft carrier, carrying F-9C Sparrowhawk fighter planes, which could be launched and recovered while it was in flight. Acron was destroyed in a thunderstorm off the coast of New Jersey on the morning of 4th April 1933, killing 73 and 76 crewmen and passengers. The accident involved the greatest loss of life in any airship crash. At number 5, the deadliest war. The National Revolutionary Army of the Republic of China and the Imperial Japanese Army were the two armies that engaged in combat during the Second Sino-Japanese War, which took place between 1937 and 1945. It was generally accepted that the Marco Polo Bridge incident was the spark that ignited the conflict, which eventually developed into a full-scale war that was responsible for the deaths of nearly 25 million civilians in addition to over 4 million Chinese and Japanese military personnel. At number 6, the first submarine circumnavigation. Triton, a nuclear-powered US submarine that was the first ship to travel around the world. The Triton finished its first trip around the world. It started its mission in the middle of Atlantic on February 24, 1960, and returned to the same spot 60 days and 21 hours later on May 10th. There was no other submarine as big or as strong as the Triton when it was launched in August 1959. The ship had 2 nuclear engines that gave it a speed of 30 knots and traveled about 110,000 miles without having to refuel. It was 136 meters long and weighed 5,900 tons. At number 7, the fastest rocket-powered manned aircraft. As a part of the X-plane line of experimental planes, NASA runs the North American X-15, a hypersonic rocket-powered plane. The X-15 broke records for speed and altitude. It also went into space and came back with a useful information that it used to build planes and spaceships. At an altitude of 31,120 meters, 19.34 miles. William J. Knight flew the X-15 at Mach 6.7, which is 4,520 miles per hour on October 3, 1967. This was the plane's fastest speed. This set the world record for the fastest powered airplane with people on board, which has not been beaten since. At number 8, the fastest manned aircraft with air-breathing engine. The SR-71 was developed to penetrate far into hostile territory while simultaneously maintaining tremendous speed in order to evade detection. The Lockheed SR-71 Blackbird broke the record for the fastest manned aircraft with an air-breathing engine on July 28, 1976, when it reached speeds of Mach 3.3. This is equivalent to more than 3,500 kilometers per hour or 2,100 miles per hour, and it is about 4 times as fast as the typical cruising speed of a commercial airliner. At number 9, the deepest military shipwreck. On 28 November 1996, shipwreck recoveries found a long-lost shipwreck SS Rio Grande that sank off the coast of Brazil in January 1944. When American ships encountered the ship, the crew realized they had been seen. They left the ship and its goods and tried to sink it on purpose. The American ships shot at the Rio Grande until it sank, which threw its goods to the bottom of the ocean. During World War II, SS Rio Grande was a German ship. In 1944, U.S. fighters sank it to a depth of about 18,904 feet or 5,762 meters. At number 10, the farthest unmanned aircraft flight. The Northrop Grumman RQ-4 Global Hawk is a high-altitude, remotely piloted surveillance aircraft introduced in 2001. It can survey as much as 40,000 square miles, 100,000 kilometers square of terrain per day. On 22nd to 23rd April 2001, Global Hawk UAV covered 13,219.86 kilometers in a single flight. That is roughly 82,014.44 miles. The high-altitude, long-endurance surveillance plane took off from Edwards Air Force Base in California and landed on Edinburgh Base in Adelaide, Australia, about 213 hours and 23 minutes later. At number 11, the fastest unmanned aircraft with air-breathing engine. The NASA X-43 was an experimental unmanned hypersonic aircraft with multiple planned scale variations meant to test various aspects of hypersonic flight. NASA's X-43A research vehicle screamed into the records books again, demonstrating an air-breathing engine that can fly nearly 10 times the speed of sound. Preliminary data from the scramjet-powered research vehicle show its revolutionary engine worked successfully at nearly Mach 9.8 or 7,000 miles per hour, as it flew at about 110,000 feet. And that, guys, was the top 11 military Guinness World Records in history dating back to the 19th century. We're signing off for today, but don't forget to hit that notification and subscription button to support this channel. Thank you guys for viewing in. Bye-bye.